If you're interested in a knife that could serve as a formidable weapon, worthy of use in the Thunderdome, probably even beyond, or even at your local chapter of the Fight Club, I'm going to show it to you right now. Hey, I'm Jay, and if you use and collect pocket knives like I do, or maybe you're still searching for your ever-elusive Grail knife, click on subscribe so I can help you find it by watching videos that I upload not once, not twice, but 3 times a week. On the screen before you, you should be looking at the specs right now, so go ahead and feel free to pause right here so you can look at them closely. Now, this is the brand new for 2018, the Benchmade Vector, model number 495. And let's go ahead and get the comparisons out of the way. We're going to start with the Recon 1. Let's do quickly, of course, the Para 2. What's another good one? Another Spyderco. Endura 4. Oh, how about, ooh, here we go. Kershaw Link. And let's just throw this in because I know a lot of people have this knife. The Bug Out, of course. The Vector, it is an assisted opening axis lock, and you can see deployment is accomplished with only the flipper tab. Now, it's really nice to see the way that their Benchmade's line of Axis-assisted opening knives is kind of evolving, because my first experience with the Axis-assist, do you remember the APB? The deal was with that, it had the 2 buttons, a button on each side, and you would like squeeze them together and then close the knife. That APB had a ridiculously thick handle. The operation was very, very noisy. It would click a lot, like when you close it and when you would deploy it. The weight, if I remember correctly, was a little, actually, yeah, it was over 5 ounces. And that was all on 154 cm blade steel. So it's really nice to see, again, the way that they're progressing with this line of knives, because the Vector is a heck of a lot thinner, quiet operation. It's just all around better than the APB, which is now discontinued, by the way. So check out this blade. Look at that. That is just gorgeous. That kind of like dagger-like grind, spear point. I mean, I know it's not a true spear point blade, but it's pretty darn close. And now that I'm looking at it, now, so you see this, the top spine obviously is not sharpened, but when the knife is closed, see how I can show you guys this. It looks like about 1/4 inch of the tip is like hidden within the handle. My point being that I think, see if you guys can, oh yeah, you guys see that? You could probably sharpen that 1/4 inch of the spine, and you know, you would not injure yourself because it would be tucked away within the handle. I'm not saying you should do it. I'm just merely saying that you could do it. But yes, this is just a beautiful, beautiful spear point. And check out the handle. Look at this. See if I can show this to you guys. And I apologize for if it's out of focus. but I really like how the handle design, it flows all the way through, transitioning to the blade and all the way out to the tip. Look at that. And speaking of the spine, all the way across from the handle again to the tip, look at that curvature. And I just love that uncluttered, kind of flat, nothing sticking up. Well, other than the safety lock, which we'll get to here in a second. But that curvature, that also translates to a very, very comfortable grip. Oh yeah. Let's see. Let me try it another. Oh yes. Wow. Very comfortable, regardless of what grip you're using. The traction on these G10 scales, they're pretty darn good. And the scales are slightly contoured. You know what? Let me close this so you can guys get a look at that. Yeah, you see that? That contouring? And then this is like kind of like a, Benchmade calls it like a diamond-like texture. It's just perfect. This is not going to chew up your pockets, so do not worry about that. The reason I went with the Vector, one of the reasons, is the fact that I can adjust this pivot without having to take off the G10 scales. Now, I love this flipper tab because it really doesn't need to be that big. The assisted opening mechanism, it really grabs a hold of the blade early. Like, watch, I'm just gonna start pushing out a little bit. See if you guys can see the blade coming out of the handle. Right about there, yep. And then it just flies open. Very, very authoritative deployment. I mean, there is a little bit of recoil. Let me see if I can show you this here without dropping the knife. Yeah, that's difficult to show on camera. But anyway, take my word for it. There is a little bit of a recoil. Benchmade did a fantastic job on this plunge grind. Look at that. Beautiful. Excellent. Of course, this is CPM S30V, so that is great steel. Good to go. Now, there is a secondary safety lock. Actually, it's a very nice one. The way that I check these locks, like I have the Casbah. Now, this is an automatic, but still, this has a safety switch on it. And when I get a knife with this kind of a switch, I kind of tap it in all positions to see if it rattles. And if it doesn't rattle, that means it's pretty darn good and it fits very, very well. So I'm happy to report this one does not. A very, very cool feature, though, of this safety lock is, okay, let's say you accidentally engage the safety, so it's on right now when you push it up. With some other Axis-assisted opening knives, you're not able to close the knife, but with the Vector, you're still able to, even though it is in the locked position, you're still able to close the knife. Awesome. Of course, you're going to have to disengage it, you know, to deploy it again, but still. So it's not like one of those locks where you have to like look and check to make sure, boy, is it on, is it off? Because it doesn't matter when it comes time to closing, just, you know, when you open it. The pocket clip on the Vector, it is a deep carry clip that comes on here stock, and so that's going to be tip up only for righties. Hey, look at that, lefties too. Thank you guys. Now, I did mention that AXIS-assist, it's pretty strong. However, it is rather slow. Just want you to be aware of that. Does not really bother me, but it is a little bit slow. And I mean, and it makes sense. I mean, it's trying to deploy. This is a 3.6-inch blade. So I guess that's maybe acceptable. The weight, you guys aren't going to believe this, 4.4 ounces. That is just phenomenal. And yes, boy, it's going to be hard to show you guys this because the channel for the blade is really, really narrow. I'll try and do my best, guys. But yeah, it is skeletonized both liners extensively. I mean, there are big holes that they cut out of the liners. 4.4 ounces. That is just fantastic considering, okay, the AXIS-assist and this safety switch. You know, this is all, they're all metal parts. So that's going to do nothing but add weight to a knife, yet they were still able to come in at 4.4 ounces. That is just awesome. And if you couldn't already tell, this blade is a fantastic slicer. I mean, look at that. That blade stock, that's 2.5 millimeters thick. So it is, let me grab the bug out here. Okay, so it is a little bit thicker than the bug out blade stock. This is 2.2 millimeters. Vector is 2.5. Let me grab another example here. The Kaiser Dukes, the Vanguard version, okay? The Dukes is 2.8 millimeters thick. So just a little bit thicker than the Vector blade stock. And that's kind of crazy, right? Because this is just a 3-inch blade. I mean, Vector, geez, 3.6 inches. Excellent slicer, excellent at piercing. And if you're one of those people that are gonna sharpen it up a little bit on the spine side here, oh my goodness, I couldn't even imagine what that thing would be like. Now, the first potential deal breaker is going to be, well, the fact that this is an assisted opening knife. And I know lots of you don't like that. You don't like Kershaw speed safe knives, and that's fine. Now, I don't really have a problem with assisted opening knives, but I do want to share with you a really quick story about the first couple hours of time that I spent with this knife after I unboxed it. Now, so I was going like crazy, just opening, closing, just to get the AXIS-assist and the studs here all broken in. So yeah, open, close for like about an hour. And I noticed it was becoming increasingly difficult to deploy the blade, so much so where it was actually painful. And I couldn't believe it. I thought it was just, okay, well, maybe the flipper tab is uncomfortable, maybe it's pointy, but it's really not. What was happening is that the pivot screw was tightening instead of what normally happens after multiple deployments, you know, when the pivot will start to loosen. Oh no, with the Vector, it actually began to tighten to the point where I could not even deploy it. Now, that only happened once, so I'm not bringing this up as a potential deal breaker. I just thought that that was pretty rare because that was the first time that has ever happened to me. The second potential deal breaker being the blade stock. Now, yes, it is thin. At, what did we say, 2.55 millimeters. I kind of think that this blade needs to be thin in order for it to maintain those properties of being, well, a good slicer and piercer. This would not work if it was 4 millimeters thick. I don't think it would. Number 3, the Axis lock studs. Let me see if I can show you this, guys, and I really apologize if it's out of focus, but it's in the shape of an octagon, so think of a stop sign, and it's like a bolt. And I know why it's designed in this shape, so you're able to take it apart, but that shape, it's got some little points on it all the way around, and after a little while of actuating that lock, it does start to hurt a little bit. Not to the point where it's like, oh my gosh, I can't even play with this thing anymore. No, it's just, this is my first Benchmade with this shape of an Axis stud. So I'm sure I will get used to it, but it can be a little uncomfortable for some of you. There is no platform for your thumb. I really wish they would have put some jimping, at least maybe a little bit of jimping here on the handle, considering the blade stock is so thin, and if you take your thumb and you really kind of bear down on it, hold on, let me do it, and I'll show you guys my thumb. There. Yeah. Unlike let me grab, what would be a good example? Oh, here, how about this? This is the Kershaw Link. And you see how Kershaw did it. Yeah, it's a little bit wider here, to try and make it a little comfortable. But they decided not to do that here on the Vector. So that could be also painful for some. 5th potential deal breaker being, well, this is a big knife. At the overall length of so almost 8.5 inches long, 3.6 inch blade. It's a big knife. And so it's not very practical for public use. It's just not. Number 6, well, the safety lock. Now, I did say earlier how this is a fantastic lock. No rattling. I mean, it fits in there. You could hear it click for each time you move it. But is it really necessary to have this lock? I mean, how many Kershaw Speed Safe knives have a safety? This being the knockout, of course. I know that there's some, but those are pretty rare. So I just think that the safety lock is not really necessary here. Now, on an automatic like the Casbah, of course, yes, there should be a safety. But on just an assisted opening flipper, I really think that they would have been fine without the safety switch. Now, the flipper is small, which is good. So that means less things will, this will, it won't bump into too many things, increase the possibility of it potentially opening in your pocket. So they kept the flipper pretty small. It doesn't need to be big. And it does take a fair amount of pressure to get that blade to fire. Number 7, disassembly. Now, the thought of disassembling this for maintenance does not excite me at all. So I really think that that could be something that could scare some of you off, because that I consider the accessibility of the internals when I purchase a knife. I mean, is this thing going to be a pain to disassemble? Number 8, the price. Well, you know Benchmade. And yes, $191.25. And you know what? That's a lot of money. It really is for an assisted opening knife with S30V blade steel. I mean, you can get M390 that's assisted opening on this Kershaw link for $80. And you know what? I noticed these are back in stock on Blade HQ. So you might want to, after you watch this video, swing on over there and pick one up. But $80, yeah, for M390 Kershaw link. So yeah, $191. That's a lot of money. That was a tough pill for me to swallow. Now, if you're interested in seeing reviews for some of the knives that I've shown you here today, like the Benchmade Casbah and the Kershaw link and M390, if you go ahead and click up here in the corner, you can watch all of those reviews. I do like assisted opening knives, but if I'm planning on carrying an assisted opening knife, I would reach for my M390 link first. I would reach for my Knockout, even though it's, you know, a lot different blade steel than these two. Or let's bring out one that has identical blade steel in the Casbah. This is a heck of a lot lighter and can do a lot of the same functions. So no, unfortunately, not damn handsome, but it is close. And I cannot fault anyone for purchasing this because it's a good knife.